Hello and welcome to ibjokn. In today's video, we're going to go through the process of laying out a new trail before you start doing any cutting. And I always use these flags. They come in a bundle of 100 and they're about $8. I use them throughout the trail systems. They're great even after you build the trail because snow hits the ground. You're not necessarily going to know where the trail leads. And so it's a great way to allow riders to continue to use the trail year round. All right, so without further ado, you can see here on the left, this trail system used to actually come straight down. We have since turned the trail into another section to get more use of that area of the land and to also create a better flow into this new section of trail. All right, so you can see here, this is the first flag leading from the pathway leading up to this area. This is already well packed, it's already been constructed, and so now it's just a matter of laying out the land. All right, so when you build any new trail system, you're going to want to make sure you don't have any super tight radius bends. Typically, I don't build any turns that are tighter than 16 to 20 feet in the diameter. And so we cut through here. We have a lot of honeysuckle in Indiana, or at least in this area of Indiana, and so it makes it very easy to cut. In fact, most of the time I can actually pull this right out of the ground, and so we're very fortunate in the fact that we don't have to do a tremendous amount of cutting to build a new trail system here at Hayes Arboretum. All right, so as you can see here, there's another flag here. They're kind of difficult to see, but it has a nice flowing pathway here, but I'm kind of cutting through all the honeysuckle. I haven't even cut this yet, but I wanted to show you this. So here we have an outside flag here, and that's typically where I lay the flags. I lay them on the outside of wherever the bends are. And so here you can see another flag here, and so we're flowing now back to the right. We got another flag here. All right, we're flowing to the right, and you can see the flags there on the outside there. And this is just a short section of trail, maybe 2/10 of a mile when it's all said and done. But those are the small steps that you take to have a complete trail system. You don't just go out and build it in one day. You want to build it in sections. So here we have another flag. Now we're flowing here to the right and cutting along. As you can see here, one of the other things that I do is that I typically try to use deer paths as much as possible, and you can somewhat see that here. That the deer will actually run through this area, and that does a lot of things, right? It clears some of the debris, and it's already packed down, and that's a huge help. Packing down a trail can be a real tedious task. A lot of your beginner riders are just going to walk it or just completely bypass it altogether. So there are a few people that are really dedicated riders enough to do that service for you. So here, now we're cutting back right. And when you're cutting a new trail, try to avoid cutting any trees, any larger trees. It's not a bad thing to get rid of some of the smaller saplings, because they do is, draw the water from the larger trees, and those are the ones that are critical. So here, now we're coming back to the right. So like I said, this is an outer flag here, and now we're bending back to the left, so I've got the outer flags here. All right, so here we go. We've got a nice diameter. And so the trail system's now bending back this way. And again, notice that I don't have any tight bends, because for me, one of the more critical things of a trail system is flow. And here in this area, a lot of our riders are beginner riders. And so they're not going to like this super technical, it feels like, you're doing nothing but climbing up hills. So you want to make sure that it flows. When you have a slight uphill, make sure that it flows into a slight downhill, so that it doesn't feel like you're climbing all the time. And this area of land was actually kind of difficult because the terrain doesn't really suit one typical trail system where you have a ridge line that you can follow and just kind of sweep down the hillside. Here we have kind of some areas that are high, and then you go back down into areas that are low, a lot of debris, and then we also have a watershed out that direction, so we need to stay clear of it. You get into the watershed, it's always going to be messy, it's going to be wet all the time, and you're just destroying the land. You want to prevent erosion. All right, so continuing on here, now we're sweeping back left. Again, mostly honeysuckle that we're cutting out. And you can see here on the right, this is actually the trail that's coming back through this area. So I'm going to have to build somewhat of a wall right here through this section. All right, so now you can see we're still slightly going left, and there's kind of a point here that starts to bend back right. So now we're coming through some debris. Again, here's that deer path I was telling you about. I use those as much as I can just because, like I said, the trail's already packed in that area. Fortunately, in this area also, there's a lot of gravel. So that means that it's going to have a chore between the gravel and the clay to pack this down and have this trail ready. Right now, it's the very end of February. So I'm going to try to get this cut by mid-March and have people start riding it and get other riders out here. And this is going to give us, I hope, 7.5 miles of trail systems here. All right, so now we're coming through this section. All right, we're kind of sweeping down. Duck down a lot of honeysuckle through here. Okay, and so now you can see we're going slight uphill, right? We just had a slight downhill, and maybe 3 degrees, 4 degrees, and now we're starting to cut back right. It looks like I've got a flag that I need to pick up here. All right, so again, kind of following the deer trail, and so now there's a flag here. So we're kind of sweeping in here, and we're going to go through this. This is all dead debris for the most part. So that's really going to be kind of a chore to cut all that out. Make sure you get the stumps level with the ground, or even dig them out slightly. And if you can, with a lot of this, like this guy here, I'm pretty sure that I can just push that over and pull the roots right out of the ground. Because what will happen is, even if you cut it level with the ground, is that as the trail gets packed down, now you're going to have a stump that someone's going to either catch a pedal on, or they're going to hit it with their foot when they're running. If you can actually pull the root system out, now's the time to do it. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, now we're sweeping back to the right, or left, I mean. Right, so we've got our flag here, and now we're going to go up here and to the left. And if you've built trails before, you're going to notice this is a fairly easy build. There really aren't any large trees or anything like that that's in the way. So this, when I get into an area where I'm not sure where the endpoints are, so when I'm coming from the direction we're going now, I can see that this is my outer flag, but from the other direction, that's my outer flag. So I'm going to go right in between these guys. And you can see, possibly in the distance, the next flag. So here we go, trail, or a deer trail here. And we're just following right up through here. And we got our outer flags. Nice easy bend, right? Because we do have a slight, if you're going the other direction, because we do have bidirectional trails here, in either direction you don't have much of a climb. And I really like to keep it that way. I try to keep on the side of a ridge line. That way it flows well. Okay, now we're getting a little bit closer to the watershed. If I have problems with any area, it's possibly going to be this area. But we've had nothing but rain. I think we've had in the last week 5 inches of rain, and the ground is still very solid. So I'm not too concerned about that, but you always want to just kind of keep an eye on those areas. And if need be, you just make the trail go in a different area or a different direction. All right, so now we're still sweeping right. We've got this nice wide sweeper. And so this is going to be a lot of fun when this gets packed down. This area is going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get packed down, just because it is, there aren't a whole lot of deer trails. I mean, you can see some through here. So there's going to be some packing to do, and I'm going to build up some calf strength here. All right, so now we still have this nice long right-hand sweeper. What I see some trail builders do is they will actually try to maximize the distance they can get out of a trail system in. And that is not something you want to necessarily make your goal. Like I said, my goal is always flow. Adding distance is great, but if it's just basically, wrapping back on itself over and over and over, you're not going to get a whole lot of riders like that, including myself. Okay, and so we're still sweeping out this way. There's a flag right here. It's kind of difficult to see at this point. Again, with the honeysuckle, very easy to tear out. This, even building this by myself, I can have this knocked out in no time at all. All right, so now we're starting to sweep back right, because we're almost back onto the trail that's going the other direction. So now if I sweep just to the right here, you can see the flags for the other trail. So we are maximizing the land. Okay, oops, lost my flag there. So now we've got a slight climb. This is probably 4, maybe 5 degrees. You don't really want to climb more than 11% grade, because that can be a bit of a challenge, not only for the rider, but for maintenance. All right, so now we're still climbing slightly. All right, now you can see some of our flags. Now we're starting to bend to the right, and I know that because I keep the flags on the outside edge of the bend. So here we go. I know some of you are going to be kind of jealous because we have such an easy place to build trails. So now this is the area that I'm going to really have to think through. And I flagged all this today, but I'm not going to start cutting until I come back out here and I really make sure this is the right path. You can see the flags now. And so now we're bending just to the right of this really large tree. And the pathway that's coming down this stretch of road here, and that's what's already cut and already well packed. And so we're going to come right alongside of that, because this section, like I was saying, so we've got this small dip, and we have to be very careful with the erosion there. And that's another thing with the 11% grade. If you get beyond that, it's not just trail maintenance and riders having to pedal so much, but you also can create an area of erosion, and we don't want that. Okay, so now here we're to the area where we're going to build a bridge. Kind of tricky to walk through. And so we've got this gap, right? And so this gap's got a nice drop into this. And like I said, we've gotten 5 inches of rain. This is typically almost dry. But we've gotten a lot of rain. Luckily, it's rain and not snow, because this time of the year, you just never know. And so we're crossing this section, and what I will do is I'm actually going to take large trees that have already fallen, but are in still good shape, and I'm going to take a come along, and I'm going to come along them across this gap. And then I'll actually create a structure underneath of it going into the sides of these hills, and I'm going to go directly into the side of the hill, because if you try to go vertical, you know, it's not going to give you any support. So you've got to create a kind of a 45-degree angle on both sides up to the center of the bridge. And here, because of its distance to the base, we're actually going to create an arm rail. So altogether, you know, I've done a few of these already here at Hayes, and it may cost in lumber probably $300, maybe a little bit more, maybe $325. Because like what we're going to do is, right, we're going to use the lumber that we have out here for the most part. The only thing that's going to be, you know, treated lumber is going to be the handrails and the planks that we use to go across the decking. And we're going to use 2x4 decking for that area as well. And we'll take shingles and we'll actually shingle this in the center so that when it's wet, you have a nice, you know, nice grippy surface to pedal on. Because this is, you know, this is an ascent. And so we're going to climb up this hill, and we're going to just run right along the edge of that road there and sweep back to the left. So I'll show you that. We're going to walk up to the road here. And this is a super fast section of the trail, so we wanted to make sure that we still used it because it's nice. We have a lot of areas here on Red Trail that, you know, do require you to pedal a fair amount. And so that new section I was telling you about where I rerouted the trail comes out right here. And it's going to flow right down through this trail onto the area where I had shown you we started. So here's the flags, right? And here is the flag. And we're going to sweep, just sweep right up through here. And we're going to build kind of a wall, again, down through here. And that's going to complete this new section of trail. And I'll comment on what the actual distance is here on this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this has helped you. And get out and ride.